Hello! So I'm going to be giving you the lesson that is needed to do probably your best on the summer reading short answer questions. So I'm going to give an example. I'm also going to go over all the directions. One thing you want to do is you want to have a piece of paper and you want to take notes. You want to pause and rewind as you need to pause and rewind. You might even be watching this after you've already taken notes and you're just going to go through the same steps I'm going through, but you're doing it for a different quotation for practice. So this will probably be about 20 minutes long, I'm thinking, by the end of it, but that's 20 minutes that we can use in class to do additional things, right? So I'm trying to think about how to best to use our time. So it's about 20 minutes to this video will be, and then you can of course rewatch it or rewatch segments of it. Definitely take notes. I'm going to be putting a lot of hints and helpful comments for you to be able to get the best grade possible. So on your test, and for the regular students have a different test than the pre-AP students. So pre-AP students, we have 3 short answers, and regular students will have 1 short answer, but they're going to be done the same style. So what there's going to be for the short answer is I'm going to give you a quotation from the novel. Make sure you have read the book and haven't just watched the movie, because all the quotations I'm giving you are not in the movie. I'm going to give you a quotation from the book that I feel is a fairly important quotation that you should have remembered and you should have noticed. Like if you were underlining important sentences while you were reading, this would have been one of the sentences you would have underlined. And you have to do 3 things with that quotation. So I'm about to go over those 3 things. The first thing you have to do is you have to tell me what theme does that quotation support. The second thing you have to do is you have to actually explain the quotation in context. Think of this as I'm giving you a little sentence, a little snippet, and you're going to kind of be able to tell me the stuff that snippet's about, the who, what, when, where, why. You're not going to just simply summarize the quotation. You're going to show me you understand that quotation in context. And then the third thing is you're going to go back and you're going to then explain how that quotation does prove that theme. And I'm going to give you a little bit of structure to show how to do that. So those are the 3 things you have to do, 3 parts for your short answer. Your short answer, I would say bare minimum 4 sentences, bare minimum 4 sentences. Probably no more than 10 sentences. I think that would be insane. So maybe I would say on average 5-6 sentences would be normal. Don't ramble or make me have to grade longer, because you can't just directly be concise and tell me, what the quotation's about and how it's connected. So I'm going to start off with an example quotation. This one is not on the test. It's from page 5 of the Giver. And the quotation is, "It was one of the rituals, the evening telling of feelings." So this is our one that we're going to work on today. So the first thing we got to do is we got to figure out what theme is it connected to. So the way that we do that is the way that we always find a theme. So my students will get so sick and tired of this by the end of the year. So the way that we always find a theme is we come up with a list of topics. Now typically when I ask you, figure out the theme of a novel, we come up with a big list of all the topics that would be in the novel. But we don't need to come up with every topic in the novel. We just need to come up with a topic for this quotation. So it was one of the rituals. Well, it was one of the rituals, that kind of idea, right? Topics are ideas. We cannot see them. So that's the idea of tradition, maybe. So I'm going to just write a little list, tradition. And also I feel that it is a tradition and it is something that was expected of you every single day. I can also write down the word expectations. The evening telling of feelings. Well, that one's easy. Emotions, right? All right. And then I need to also think about, so that's like these 2, tradition and expectations, I kind of got from the beginning of the sentence, and emotions I kind of got from the end of the sentence. But I'm not just thinking about what's in the sentence, I'm thinking about the sentence in context. And this was that thing that we learned, that you have to tell your feelings. I mean, imagine if every night at dinner you had to tell your parents your feelings. Like, right? You're like, oh, I wouldn't like that. Well, why wouldn't you like that? Because you want to have privacy. So another idea that this deals with indirectly is privacy. So how many ideas should you write down really is going to depend on your quotation. I would suggest trying to go for about 3, just so that way you can stretch yourself, because privacy is the last one I came up with, but I think it's really the best. All right, so step number 1 of figuring out a theme, create a list of topics. Step number 2, write down the author believes that for the beginning of a sentence. So in this case, we know the author's name, so we're going to go ahead and use the author's name. We could call her Lois Lowry, or we could just call her Lowry. We would never say Lois. Like, she's not our BFF. Like, we can refer to her by a last name or by her full name. So I'm going to go ahead and just write Lowry. Now, here's the deal. It happens every year. Lowry does not have an E in it. People misspell her name. I can't stand when people misspell my name. Can you stand it if someone like consistently misspelled your name? It's really annoying. Please respect an author enough to spell their name properly. So Lowry believes that, and it's the beginning of a sentence. I went ahead and did the lines just so you can see that we're going to fill this in as a sentence. You don't have to do the lines, obviously, on yours. Okay, so Lowry believes that. So now I want to take one of these guys and decide what is it that I'm going to finish up this sentence with. It's going to be about one of these. Could be about more than one of these. Like if 2 things were together, like if privacy and tradition were similar thoughts together, I could use 2 of the words for one thing, no problem. But I need to just focus on one right now while writing it. So it was one of the rituals, the evening telling of feelings. Well, I actually decided my privacy one is the best. So I'm going to think about how to finish up my sentence of Lowry believes that. So here's the deal. In Little Red Riding Hood's mom says, hey, your grandma's sick. Go there with the basket for your grandmother. Don't talk to strangers. So Little Red goes traipsing along the lanes, and she comes across the Big Bad Wolf, and Big Bad Wolf is like, where are you going? And she's like, I'm going to my grandmother's, and she's sick. So what does the Big Bad Wolf do? He goes, eats the grandma, pretends to be the grandma, then eats Little Red. And then probably in the nice PG version you were told as a child, Woodsman saves them. In the original versions, they're just dead. Like, Little Red dies, and her grandmother dies, and so virtually because Little Red didn't listen to her mother about not talking to strangers, Little Red has not only gotten herself killed, but she's also gotten her grandmother killed. So, here's the deal. Characters will often behave in ways that the author doesn't want you to behave. So it was one of the rituals, the evening telling of feelings. Don't tell me Lois Lowry wants us to sit down and tell each other our feelings at the evening meals. There's something wrong with this. So sometimes authors have characters do the wrong thing so they can show the consequences of doing the wrong thing. If you do not answer this part correctly with what Lois Lowry truly believes, you get no credit. You have to do it correctly. You have to say what it actually is teaching us. So it was one of the rituals, the evening telling of feelings. What does Lowry believe about privacy? I know Lowry supports privacy. I know that she does. So Lowry believes that. And so I'm going to, instead of starting with privacy, you don't want to ever say privacy is important or like prejudice is bad or family is good. You don't want to say that is good, is bad, is important, because it's really weak. It sounds really immature and it's completely undeveloped. You could, if you found yourself on the test, you're like, well, freedom is important. And you're like, well, I don't know how else to say that. You can say freedom is important because, and finishing up the sentence that way to create more complexity. But you don't want to just ever have it be like, racism is bad. Yes, we know racism is bad. Okay, let's go to the, something a little bit more complex, okay? You also don't want us to have the word you in there. You's really bossy. Like if I say, like, you shouldn't, I don't know, be racist, right? Like insinuates, right, that the person is racist. Like, it's not good to use you. So you want to use things like people should or people shouldn't. So Lois Lowry believes that people have a right to privacy, especially their thoughts and feelings. See how this is like a little more complex than just like privacy is good, right? So Larry believes that people have a right to privacy, especially their thoughts and feelings. I'm going to put a little comma there because that's a little positive. So see, I added my comma so that way I'm grammatically correct. Okay, so here's the deal. Normally, if I was just asking you to say a theme from The Giver, you would have a third thing to do, and that would be to cross out where it says Lowry believes that. But that's not actually the question I'm asking. My question is in a short answer, in a short paragraph, please explain what the theme that this quotation is supporting and how that is true. So what we just wrote is honestly the first sentence of our short answer. Okay? So come test time, come up with a list of topics. Go ahead, start writing. Lowry believes that. Finish up the sentence with a nice period. That is your first set of points for your short answer. It's that easy. Okay? All you got to do is be right. You just have to be right. Okay? So, the second thing to do is to write down about the quotation in such a manner that it shows that you understand what the quotation means, and you're also providing the background information on it. So here's what you're going to do. You do not have to quote from your quotation, but I suggest you practice it, and I would really like to see that for my pre-AP students. So when you're figuring out how to quote, you don't want to use a whole sentence unless you absolutely have to. What you want to do is you want to pick out words and phrases. So I'm going to look here thinking about Lowry believes that people have a right to privacy, especially their thoughts and feelings. I could talk about just the evening telling of feelings will be the part that I'm going to quote. So I just underlined the part that I'm planning on quoting. So here we go. Lowry believes that people have a right to privacy, especially their thoughts and feelings. When Jonas... See, I'm sure, right, the who, right? Who, we got Jonas and his family, is forced to share at, quote, the evening telling of feelings. So what was it? The who is Jonas and his family. His parents are able to monitor his innermost thoughts. So here's the deal. This is the Jonas and his family part is me explaining the who's, right? And I say when Jonas is forced, the force, that's not in the quotation. I'm not summarizing the quotation. I'm actually talking about something that's mentioned later, okay? So when Jonas is forced to share at the evening telling of feelings, his parents are able to monitor his innermost thoughts. Why am I saying this line as opposed to saying when Jonas is forced to share at the evening telling of feelings? He talks about how he feels apprehensive about the ceremony of 12. Well, the reason why I'm not talking about the apprehensive part is because my theme is not about emotions. My theme is going to be about privacy. So I really want to get down what's going on with privacy, right? Because I want to constantly be focused on that. So, when Jonas is forced to share at the evening telling of feelings, his parents are able to monitor his innermost thoughts. Is that good? Is that bad? We want to tell the reader whether or not that's good or bad. So we're going to explain why is it bad. So, okay, so here's the deal. I'm just going to put this up for you. Whoop. Okay. So the very first sentence is me telling you what kind of theme that this quotation is going to support. The second part is me putting the quotation into context. I start already getting back into the quotation when I talk about the monitoring of thoughts, right? The lack of privacy. I have to explain why that's bad, right? If we're saying that people should have privacy, right? I've got to explain why it's bad when they don't. And it's a way of controlling the people in the community. Okay, now, here's the deal. I just used 3 sentences. You will probably need more sentences than this. You might need 2 or 3 sentences for explaining the text. Or you might need 2 or 3 sentences for explaining how those things are related. So what you need to do is you need to go ahead and take your time to think and write. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you a tip because I'm not done yet. I got one more big tip. In order to ensure that you're explaining how the textual evidence is related to the theme, pull back to the theme. How do we do that? We start talking again about Lowry. So I'm going to pretty much say Lowry and whatever she's doing. Is she cautioning us? Is she warning us? Is she showing us something? Okay, so Lowry is cautioning the reader, right? Because that's the theme, right? To retain privacy and not given to coercion. Coercion is when we force people to do things. They're coerced into doing something. Okay? Here we go. This right here, full credit. So you can go ahead and pause that if you need to, and you need to reread. So here's what you got to do, right? Come test time. Read the quotation, come up with topics. From the topics, you're going to select one to go, Lowry believes that. Finish up that sentence. Next sentence, select a part of the quotation and explain it. Explain it in such a manner that you're providing information that's already not explicitly stated in the quotation. If you just write down, Jonas and his family had the ritual of sharing their feelings after a meal, you get no credit for that because you're summarizing. And I'm not asking you to summarize, I'm asking you to explain. You have to give me new information that was in the book for that little section of where that quotation is coming from, but then it's not directly in the quotation. Okay? That's how we know that you're not just like randomly summarizing something. Okay, the third thing is you've got to then connect it back to the theme. And the way that you do that is in your explanation, focus on that topic, right? My topic was privacy, so everything went back to privacy. Like, I'm going to mark it right now in orange. Everything that comes back to privacy. He's forced. He's monitored. His innermost thoughts. It's required to share. The people of the community are prevented from having revolutionary thoughts and are much easier to control. Lowry's cautioned the reader to retain privacy. So all this stuff that I just highlighted in orange goes back to privacy. You should be talking about whatever topic you selected. It's going to come up when you're talking about your quotation, and that's how you connect it back. Okay? If you need to do that last line, Lowry is trying to show the reader or try to caution the reader or trying to warn the reader, since the entire thing is a warning, right? The entire book's a warning about us not giving up certain rights. So that's exactly how you do the short answer. here's what you do now. Go look in your book for a place that you thought had, like, maybe you underlined a really good quotation, or maybe you're just flipping through and just find there's at least one gem per chapter of just a really good line. Take that line and go through that exact same process I just taught you. Go try it out. Go then connect that piece of that sentence to the theme, explain it in context, and then explain how that's proving the theme that exists. Try it. Do it a couple times. So there's really no reason why you can't continually be practicing. You could literally practice for hours for this test. You don't need to practice for hours. I would keep practicing till I got it down. I would try out a couple, since you're going to be responsible for 3 if you're pre-AP. So good luck. Don't wait till the last minute to try out. Make sure you did take notes. If you didn't take notes, I really, 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 really highly suggest going back and kind of typing it out or something. Step 1 is this, step 2 is this, step 3 is this. Because I kind of gave you like 5, 6 steps in here if you want to be exact. And you won't have those steps come test time. Okay, you'll just be expected to answer the question I asked you during test time. So it's all on theme, and it's all on how that quotation is supporting the theme. All right, good luck. Bye.